At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She's the outspoken host. Judge Jeanine Pirro is dominating the headlines right now.
This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome, everyone, to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. It's another Sunday morning, and I hope you're having a good day today. It's a great day here in New York City, and we're in a fighting mood this morning. We're not just armed and ready. We're ready to fight. And I'm thrilled to have all my great listeners back on here on the Red Apple Audio Network. There's a lot that happened this week in America, and I am focused, and I want to drill down on one thing, one issue, one person, and his name is Mahmoud Khalil. Now, Mahmoud Khalil is not really a household name, but Mahmoud is an individual who, for some reason, feels that he deserves to stay in the United States. And he was a student at Columbia, and everyone is going crazy right now because he has been moved from the campus in New York City to Louisiana to be deported. Now, let's talk about Mahmoud. Mahmoud was a student who came here in December of 2022. So he's been here about a little over 2 years. Mahmoud has engaged in conduct that the Secretary of State believes is not appropriate for a student on a visa. But it's not just that it's not appropriate. He has, in fact, aligned himself with Hamas, which is already a designated foreign terrorist organization. And under Article 8, Section 1182 and 83, any alien who engages in any terrorist activity or endorses or espouses or persuades or organizes, okay, or organizes. That's what Mahmoud Khalil was doing on the Columbia campus last spring and at Barnard this year. And under Article 8, Section 1182, he is someone who can be immediately deported. But we're not even going to that section. We don't even have to say that Mahmoud Khalil, who organized these protests, who prevented Jewish students from getting to class, Jewish students who were too fearful to even come onto campus. We have a guy who is on a student visa, and according to another section of law, it's Immigration Naturalization Act 237A4C. There is no requirement that you commit a crime. There is no requirement that you be convicted of a crime, charged with a crime, alleged to engage in behavior that is criminal. The Secretary of State right now, Marco Rubio, has the automatic broad authority to declare an alien deportable if the secretary believes their presence or activities have an adverse consequence for U.S. foreign policy. Now, the Secretary of State has zeroed in on Mahmoud Khalil and has said that, based upon intelligence that he won't share, that he is a national security threat, and he is revoking his status in this country. Now, a lot of people, mostly students, have a problem with that. They're yelling free speech. They've gone into Trump Tower this week, and they tried to, take over the atrium area of the tower. They had jackets on, and then all of a sudden they took their jackets off for their red T-shirts in support of Mahmoud. What the hell are you supporting this guy for? He's not an American. He is here on our invitation, not even invitation, on our permission. He has our permission to be here. And he doesn't have any legal status other than the permission as a student. And he's saying, well, I'm a green card holder. You can't deport me. Yes, we can. We can deport you under 2 statutes. What you're doing with a pro-terrorist organization and engaging in activity which are adverse to the national interests of the United States. So I want to break this down for you socially. The guy is pro-Hamas. What does that mean? He's pro-terrorist. He is anti-Semitic. He hates Jews. He's anti-American. And he says we are fighting for the total eradication of Western civilization. So as a pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, anti-American, hates the Jews, hates Western civilization, we want to reward this guy and fight and say he has the right to free speech. He has the right to be here. He has no rights. We have the right to deport him immediately. And people need to understand this is not about free speech because, first of all, Columbia and Barnard are private institutions, okay? And free speech only is assigned to public spaces and public institutions, but it's not even about free speech. It is far more actionable based upon what he was doing on campus. And Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they can all demand his release. Senator Dick Durbin, he says this is straight up authoritarianism. How dare you? How dare you support this man who hates Jews, who promotes terrorist organizations, and you cannot even say Laken Riley. You will not stand for DJ Daniels, a little boy with cancer who's 13 years old, who's had 13 brain surgeries. You dirtbags. Yes, that's what you are, dirtbags. You can't applaud for the angel moms or the people who have suffered the worst possible consequence, but you want to support and demand the release of this man? No, you've got your priorities backwards. And legally, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And this habeas corpus that is brought in the Southern District of New York, bring the body to New York. He's in Louisiana, about to be deported. This is a non-justiciable issue. And what that means is judges have nothing to do with this. The Secretary of State has a law. Get him out of the country. And that's what we need to start understanding. These people are here with our permission. And if they don't act appropriately, they go. And I'm not talking about the person who's got a job, who works in who works in a restaurant. That we're talking about straight up people on campus trying to intimidate and threaten Jewish students who hate the American way of life. Based upon this guy's profile, he can be removed. He has to be removed. And free speech has nothing to do with it. Constitutional rights have nothing to do with it. And what we're going to hear from today are 2 excellent guests that I have today. Marc Kasowitz, you may remember him. In the spring, I brought him on because he was one of the few people willing to stand up and sue universities, NYU, Penn, Harvard, Columbia, and say, you cannot do this. These are American institutions. You cannot discriminate if you get federal funds. And thank God for Donald Trump. He just pulled $400 million from Columbia and said, you don't want to protect American students? You want foreign students who hate this country to have priorities and intimidate our students? You're losing the money. Okay? You got to pull them by the short hairs. That's the only way they react. And I've got another wonderful guest, Michael Wilds, who is an immigration lawyer, a mayor, a terrific guy who is very familiar with these issues. And they're going to walk you through all of this. And I want you to stand up for Americans And I want you, whenever anybody talks about, protecting their rights, this is someone who does not belong here. He was here because we gave him permission. He is not an individual who believes in what we believe in, and so he's got to go. So you have a Virginia high school athlete who ends up clocking a competitor with her baton. It's a relay race. And now charged with assault, which, as a prosecutor looking at this case, seems to be perfectly appropriate. But what we have is a video where you actually, this young woman, I think she's a high schooler, she says, my baton, her elbow, like her arm, is literally hitting my baton, so I lost balance. When my arm, she got hit. You got to watch the video, folks. She literally clocks her. And you know what is so interesting about it is she says, of course, I would never do anything like this on purpose. But when you see the video, it's clear that she's intentionally hitting her. But she hits her when the victim passes her. She clocks her on the back of her head. I mean, it is so clear that she's upset that this person is passing her in the relay race. But here's the real kicker. She says, and she's in tears. She says, people are talking about physical hurt, but you're not thinking about my mental. Yeah, you are mental. You're mental because you literally try to make an excuse that your arm accidentally hit your competitor with a baton in it on her head, who now has a concussion and a possible fractured skull. I mean, these young people, I think they can lie and their reality is truth, having nothing to do with objective reality. It is a shame. I'm sure these kids are probably good kids, but, when the devil gets in the mix, you're in trouble.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Judge Jeanine.
Hi, I'm Jeanine Pirro, and this is Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. We're talking today about the fact that the United States is securing its funding to Ukraine by getting 50% of the revenue from Ukrainian critical and rare earth minerals. It's time for you to secure your own investment with Colonial Metals Group.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining me now is an experienced attorney. He's not just experienced, folks. He's described as the toughest lawyer on Wall Street. He's been recognized by Benchmark Litigation as one of the country's top 100 trial lawyers and honored as a litigation trailblazer by the National Law Journal. Now, Marc, it doesn't get much better than that. And of course, I'm talking about Marc Kasowitz, and I want to welcome you, Marc, to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. You are a superstar, and we are thrilled to have you on the show. We had you on the show several months ago. It was in the spring, I believe, when these lunatics started preventing Jewish students from coming on campus. And Marc Kasowitz, you were one of the few who actually took the bull by the horns and said, I'm going to sue these people. Talk to me. What has gone on? What have you done?
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. It's an honor to be on your show. We brought actions under Title VI against NYU, Columbia, the University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard. And the purpose of those lawsuits, we brought them all in federal court, and the purpose of those lawsuits was to protect the rights of Jewish students on campus to be free from the harassment and the intimidation that was being, directed at them, especially in the aftermath of October 7th, 2023, after those horrendous attacks by Hamas. And so we just to fill it out, we brought those actions. They're powerful complaints that we filed, and we have now since then settled with NYU and with Harvard. And I can tell you, Your Honor, that NYU was the first one to settle. They've done a terrific job now on their campus in protecting their Jewish students from anti-Semitism, and they've been meting out, discipline against pro-Hamas and pro-terrorist students who have been directing harassment at Jewish students, and they've really been protecting the Jewish students. And we did the same settlement up at Harvard, and Harvard has begun to do a very good job in protecting their Jewish students. But you can see we've sued Columbia. Columbia's done a horrendous job of protecting Jewish students against anti-Semitism.
Well, the interesting thing, Marc Kasowitz, is that Columbia is still a hotbed of protests and riots and discrimination, of course, against the Jewish students. And President Trump has withdrawn, I believe it's $400 million in federal funds. And, of course, Title VI prevents discrimination based upon, race, color, national origin, creed, and all that stuff if a program or activity is receiving federal funds. So the interesting thing, Marc Kasowitz, based upon what you said, is that, and I'm impressed that NYU was the first to, work out and try to resolve this issue. My son graduated from Stern at NYU. And it is very disturbing that Columbia is so resistant. Why do you think it is?
Your Honor, they have serious issues on their student body and the like, but the reality is that the administration of the university just needs to be principled and determined in how it deals with anti-Semitism. And at Columbia, so far, they just have not been.
But how sad is this? I mean, I can't even speak, Mark. It is 2025. We have to legally pull financial funds to get an American educational institution to protect American students because of their religion or their heritage. What is going on?
It's outrageous, Your Honor, and in this day and age, or in any day and age. But I'll tell you something. What we've seen with these universities is if they're committed to doing it, then they enter into these settlements with us. The settlement defines anti-Semitism under a definition and examples of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition and examples which say that it is anti-Semitic to attack the state of Israel and to seek the destruction of the state of Israel, okay? So this river to the sea type stuff that's anti-Semitism.
Marc Kasowitz, we're going to take a quick break. Come right back to you after the break.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. We're back with Marc Kasowitz, a great lawyer who ended up suing the universities last spring. He was one of the first to make sure that Jewish students were able to get on campus. Now, Columbia today, they are saying that Columbia University in today's news expels some anti-Israel students who seized Hamilton Hall during last year's protest. Big of them, isn't it? You have to pull the money away to get them to remove these students who were involved in the seizure of Hamilton Hall. Now, the sad part is that this DA, this progressive DA, has made a decision not to go forward with the criminal charges that are trespass, burglary, harassment, intimidation, as well as possible kidnapping of the workers within Hamilton Hall. The DA, Alvin Bragg, the progressive pro-Soros DA, says, I'm not going to prosecute these people. And so now, 6 months later, the university says, if you're going to take our money away, we'll do something. Do you think that any parent should be sending their kid there, whether they're Jewish or not? I mean, why go to a hotbed where they can't even enforce or protect students?
Your Honor, of course, nobody should be sending their students to a school that doesn't take immediate action with something like the occupation of Hamilton Hall. What should have happened there was very, very simple. As soon as that occupation happened, the police should have been sent in. The people who did the occupying should have been arrested. They should have been immediately expelled, not suspended, not a few of them suspended. They all should have been immediately expelled from the school, okay? And they should have been arrested.
That's right.
And subject to the criminal process. That's what should have happened. So there was a failure both by the administration of the university and by the district attorney of Manhattan.
Interesting. I'm reading this morning, Marc Kasowitz, that Ilhan Omar's daughter is involved now in a fundraiser for the detained pro-Hamas activist Mahmoud Khalil, which I think is fascinating. That all of a sudden, you've got people who want to promote this Mahmoud Khalil, who has aligned himself with Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization, and not with the victims. And we still have an American that is I believe that Hamas still has, who hopefully will be coming home. A young man from New Jersey. It's a terrible state of affairs. But last thoughts, Marc Kasowitz?
Well, sure. Your Honor, my last thoughts on this are that there's all this discussion about if you read the New York Times, there's all this discussion about about free speech on the Columbia campus and the like. This has nothing to do with free speech. This is support for terrorism. Okay. And one of the things that all these articles miss about this free speech issue is that Columbia University, like these other universities, are private universities, okay? The constitutional right of free speech does not, by its own terms, apply, okay?
Interesting.
Free speech applies in a public space, not in a private space. This is a private space. It's up to the university. These universities should have a value of free speech, but when you have groups like they have on the Columbia campus, and I'm going to read you a quote, okay? I'm going to read you a quote from one of these pro-Hamas groups, that such as the one that this gentleman that you referred to belongs to. And the group, one of these pro-Hamas groups last year expressed support for armed resistance by Hamas, and they posted an essay online that called the October 7th onslaught a, quote, moral, military, and political victory, close quote.
Yeah.
What more do you need to know than that these demonstrators are expressing support for the murder and torture and rape and burning of innocent civilians, innocent Jewish civilians that happened on October 7th? That's all you need to know.
Marc, I can't agree with you more. The barbaric medieval nature of the massacre and the promotion of that massacre makes me question our humanity. That, think about with the trades now. We've got this one young Jewish male from New Jersey that hopefully is going to be released. And we released 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 Hamas prisoners, and they're all alive and they're all healthy. And they're giving us bodies, and we're accepting that. You know, it infuriates me, Mark. It really does that it is 2025 and we are still fighting about the rights of Jewish students who paid to go to class, and that we allow foreign students in this country who align themselves with Hamas because they're not just anti-Israel. They're anti-American and they're anti-Western values, and they don't have a right to be here. And you're absolutely right. This is not about free speech. Anyway, Marc Kasowitz, if I ever get in trouble, I'm calling you.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. It's been a privilege to be on your show.
You're very kind. Marc Kasowitz, thanks so much for being with us.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is an immigration lawyer and former prosecutor. He is a fifth-term mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. His father was an immigration lawyer who represented John Lennon. He teaches at a law school. He is my favorite Democrat. And he has represented some of the Trump family. I won't say who in particular, but the Trumps rely on him. He is a phenomenal immigration lawyer, and I'd like to welcome Michael Wildis to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. How are you, Michael?
How are you, Judge? Thanks for having me. How are you, Judge?
Good. Oh, listen, you're a busy guy. I can't believe you have time to join us, but I am thrilled because I am out of my mind here with what's going on, not only on the college campuses, but with immigration itself. So you are an immigration lawyer par excellence. There's no one better than you. And folks, if anyone wants an immigration lawyer who actually knows what he's doing and is a straight shooter, and he hasn't given me a dime for this, but I truly trust this man, it is Michael. Now, Michael, I want to talk about students on a college campus who are here on a student visa. What are the conditions of a student visa? How long are they allowed to be here? And what are the requirements?
Super duper question. I teach a class on business immigration law at the Cardozo Law School in Manhattan, and I dissect the student visa for my students, and I'm happy to kind of break it down for your listenership as well. A person who goes to an American consul and wants to study in America has portended a narrative that they are not going to relinquish a domicile in a foreign country, that they will come to America and respect the terms of all of our laws, particularly our immigration laws. The Immigration and Nationality Act has a provision that in the best interest of the United States, the State Department secretary can actually castigate somebody for their politic if it's against their national security or interest. If they get arrested, there are other independent grounds for students. You have no idea how many students do foolish things. Some of them have like daddy issues, Judge, where they steal things at Sephora and they pay more of a consultation for me than the material that they stole.
Yeah. Yep.
But the American consul will then email them that their visa is canceled by operation of law because there's a very strong network into the criminal vector. So if a person comes to America, makes applications, does not tell them truth to power, if they do not say that they're married or single because they're trying to show that they have strong ties, they left a spouse behind but they lied, or they have a politic or an affiliation with something that's subversive and they're not transparent about it on the application forms, it can hurt them at a later station.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, you answered about 6 questions with that. So how long is a student visa generally good for, Michael Wilds?
It's as good as the Form I-20, which is the governing document. If a person goes for high school, for college, for a graduate degree, they're admitted for what's called, quote, D/S, end quote, duration of status that's associated with that Form I-20. They're actually required to carry that document wherever they go. For each ascending degree, they get 1 year practical training, and they have to go to their DSO, the designated school official, and make sure they certify that document when they move, when they get a job, when they want to travel, and that signature is only good for a period of time. These DSOs in the schools are partners with the SEVIS system that answers directly to ICE. Remember, all 19 hijackers in the 9/11 attacks were legitimate student visas. So the government is very wary and is partnering with schools who have an obligation to vet these people and to let the SEVIS system know that they missed school, they're not attending class, or they fell out of step with their obligations along the way. And when students travel sometimes and they go to places or they participate in things that raise eyebrows, the government has other intelligence checks in the system, and they can try to ferret the bad eggs out. Sometimes they'll spot check people when they're traveling in and out, and they'll say to somebody, hey, you said you were going to go home. It looks like you have a bride magazine. Who are you marrying? If they say, I'm marrying a citizen, they have to get comfortable in their skin because they're showing an immigrant intent maybe by marrying a citizen, and they said they were going to go back home. So CBP officers, State Department officials at embassies, and school officials are all part of this chain of trust when it comes to foreign students.
Well, this chain of trust, a key person in there is this person, this term that I've never heard of before, a designated school official, or as you say, a DSO. Now,
That's
that
right.
DSO, how often would a student on a visa have to meet with the DSO?
Very regularly. Typically you'll see their emails give all sorts of instructions. Some of the students are very sharp. They're practically immigration lawyers before they come to America. Yeah. Imagine if they want a future onboarding into our workforce, it's a very challenging time. But these DSOs are really top flight. They ask me to do workshops with their foreign students. I don't even charge fees for these, how to onboard into the workforce for professional work visas like the H-1B, or if they have talent, the O visa and other ways to get in there.
But who does this designated school official work for?
They work for the school. They're paid by the school, and they're hired to muster with immigration.
All right, Michael Wilds, I'm going to assume that a designated school official, or a DSO as you call them, is kind of like a probation officer. And if they are supposed to be in touch with the student who's on a visa, and if that student is involved in any of the things going on, for example, like what we saw in the spring on Columbia campus and what's going on now at Barnard, they should be reporting this to ICE, right? Directly to ICE?
They should, but it's generally outside of the scope of what they would be responsible for. My daughter went to Columbia. Another daughter of mine went to Barnard. They're in their international school, and they're waiting for students to show up and ask questions. They're not out inspecting campus, walking around, and so forth. But, yes, if they have adverse information, they do have an obligation to put it into the SEVIS system, but they're generally overwhelmed with the administrative tasks and not police officers in their task.
Okay. One of the things that you mentioned, Michael Wilds, is that, if they come, the conditions are that they're not going to relinquish, their allegiance to their own country, that they're going to follow the laws of this country, and that they plan to go home. But if they marry, they're indicating a different intent. But no one seems to care if they get married. So, for example, Mahmoud Khalil. So this guy who Marco Rubio is looking to deport under the INA law, 327, he got married. We don't even know if he advised his designated school official, but that indicates an intent to stay.
That's right. But just because you marry an American citizen doesn't mean you're physically going to remain in America. It could very well be that they plan to go someplace else. The marriage itself is not proof positive that they breached their immigration, but it does raise eyebrows, and we caution people that are showing these kind of features when they're traveling in and out of America, when inspections will happen by proper CBP officers that are sworn peace officers and must investigate these kind of experiences. Certainly, when a person radicalizes or starts giving out literature with the Hamas symbol on it. This radical Islamism or wokeism, if you would, because that's what I compare it to. Even as a Democrat, I have to tell you, reflects on our safety, our security. And these DSOs, police officers, CBP, everybody plays a role in kind of, if you see something, say something, so that eventually the record will be found to ICE and so forth. So locking people in a room, intimidating Jewish students on campuses, this is poor conduct, not protected speech. A warping of the First Amendment is what we're seeing right now on television. Taking over a campus is not exercising free speech, and this kind of conduct is certainly actionable. I do not believe it to be the responsibility of the DSO. Frankly, I believe it to be the responsibility of the mayor and the governor of the state of New York. As a mayor myself, I believe that they abdicated it by saying it's a campus, we can't touch it. And again, the president stepped up. The president stepped up in a significant laudatory way by saying this is unacceptable conduct. I'm pulling your financial strengths, and I'm going to deport somebody because you have no sense of hospitality in this country. If you're not going to respect our rules until you have the golden grail of citizenship, you will be deported if you step out of line with our nation's security and so forth.
All right. Anyway, Michael Wilds, I want to thank you for joining us. You are a terrific person. I love you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Judge. Be well. Take care.
All right. You take care. You heard from the experts today. There is no law or no protection for Mahmoud Khalil. People who come here on student visas have to follow certain rules or else they get deported. And it's about time that we had a president who recognized that. And even though we had a woke prosecutor, Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, the guy who indicted Danny Penny, who, thank God, was acquitted, who lets everyone go who was arrested on campus for those spring takeover of, I think it was Hamilton Hall. We've got a president now who's saying to Columbia, and we heard it from Marc Kasowitz, Columbia is right now the most difficult university to deal with in terms of his Title VI lawsuit where they discriminate against students based on their religion and ethnicity. But we now, thank God, have a president who pulled $400 million from Columbia. And the president and the Trump administration is cutting funding to Maine universities as that state defies orders to ban trans athletes from women's sports. You know what? Donald Trump is not fooling around. And here's the one thing that is so crucial. The man means what he says, and he says what he means, and he follows through on what he promises. That's why we heard promises made and promises kept. And this president is going to protect women. He's going to protect Jewish students. He's going to protect Americans. And there's no fooling around anymore. The laws are going to be followed. And at the same time, we've got a president who is trying to bring about world peace, whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine. And as these pro-Mahmoud Khalil demonstrators continue to clash with NYPD, it is clear how this is going to end. Mahmoud Khalil, the anti-Israel Columbia University activist, is going to be deported. He is going home. He doesn't have the right to stay here. This is not about his free speech. It's about his actions that are inconsistent with America's policy. And the protesters can protest all they want, and they are not going to win on this one. So everyone, you keep an eye on all of this. You mark my words. This guy, Mahmoud, will be deported, and it should be a lesson. And not only a lesson, but any of those students who are creating this chaos and intimidation and preventing Jewish students from going to class on any of these universities need to be deported. They have violated the conditions of their visas. You heard it from Michael Wilds, an immigration attorney, and probably the best one out there. So stay tuned. We're going to follow up on this next week, but it's been great being with you. I hope you have a great week. We're out of time. See you next week. Same time, same place, same me. Take care of yourself. God bless.